In the mid-90s, you would always want to get your hands on the latest and greatest SNES brawler, especially in the fall season where some incredible games would drop and be competing for your hard-earned coin on that Christmas wishlist. Spawn being an Acclaim release title in 1995, you would think that Spawn was immediately a bad game. Today you'll find out if Spawn on the Super Nintendo holds up today. The Marvel and DC franchises got their share of Spider-Man or Batman games on the Super Nintendo like Batman Returns or Maximum Carnage, so why not have Image Comics come on down and be the next contestant, with their own game featuring the dark and sadistic Spawn as the main character. Spawn is an action platformer beat-em-up which is definitely unique for the time frame it was released in. It's not exactly the Batman Returns or Spider-Man Maximum Carnage type of beat-em-up, since you can only move from left to right while beating enemies up. It's almost like the Adventures of Batman and Robin, or Ninja Warriors in that sense, which are both very good games in their own regard. I spoke about Ninja Warriors in my top beat-em-ups released on the Super Nintendo, so if you're into brawlers like I am, definitely check that out. Spawn can perform a ton of basic punches or kicks, as well as block enemy attacks or jump. To make things a bit more complicated, his moveset also varies when in the air or crouching. Spawn actually has 16 basic attack moves that you can perform. Then Spawn can do all kinds of crazy stuff like wall jump, dash, or glide to safety. He even has special abilities like a revolving uppercut, a fireball, a hell-raising uppercut. Each one of these moves takes up a specific set of psi energy, and all of these special moves have to be performed like a Street Fighter move. The problem is, how the hell are you supposed to know how to do them all? Chances are you've probably bought a loose copy of Spawn or are playing it on an emulator, so I would recommend having game FAQs open to at least try out each of the moves before diving right in. To add to the madness, just take a look at the new area where you have to use the wall jump mechanic in order to progress. You not only have to master a new mechanic here, but now you have to do it with a gunman shooting at you. It would have been better from a learning curve standpoint, like in Super Metroid, where in the secret wall jump room, at least the Edakuns showed you how to do it and not fire a machine gun at you every time you fall. One great thing about Spawn on the Super Nintendo is the visuals. The still cutscenes bring out the dark atmosphere of Spawn based on the design of the Canadian. Yeah, I had to point out that Todd McFarlane is a Canadian, being a fellow Canadian. And the character sprites and backgrounds just look so good. It really makes you feel like you're playing through the eyes of a comic book, similar to how Maximum Carnage was laid out. Each move Spawn has in his arsenal is really cool looking, and the cave movement is just so badass as it floats around. The soundtrack in Spawn fits the atmosphere and design flow of the game well. Most of the soundtrack is dark and moody, rather than the upbeat sounds that you would typically hear in, let's say, Super Mario World. If you played Spawn on an FX Pack Pro like I did, you might notice that the save states in the game might freeze when transitioning to a new area. This was a total bummer for trying to save my progress, but luckily there's a password system that I'll leave in the description so you can advance from stage to stage, and there's even unlimited continues to keep you going. One thing I wanted to mention is the difficulty curve. Spawn is extremely difficult, and you'll have to make use of the variety of moves that he's got to hopefully cheese out some of the areas or bosses like I did. I constantly found myself rushing towards that last section of the stage to hopefully avoid dying just to make sure I would progress. Take a look at this section here where Spawn is upside down. I found myself turning my head upside down to make it past this. Imagine how dizzy I was when I flipped my head back up. Spawn does have its downfalls. It's still just a beat 'em up and doesn't have much else going for it as you make your way throughout the game. That's not necessarily a bad thing because of the variety of moves and the presentation that comes along with Spawn. If you're a comic book fan or just tired of the same old beat 'em ups like Final Fight, Maximum Carnage, or even Batman Returns, then Spawn is a great alternative to scratch that beat 'em up itch you might have on the Super Nintendo. So yeah, Spawn does bring something fresh to the otherwise bland genre of beat 'em ups with the wall jumping or cake gliding, and if I had to put Spawn somewhere on the list of best superhero beat 'em ups, I would say that it might not be as good as, let's say, Maximum Carnage, but more along the lines of the Death and Return of Superman or Adventures of Batman and Robin. I'm the Retro Kingpin, thanks for watching.